entirely outside of results and performance.
As long as I can remember, this is what I've done. I just don't know who I am without it.
Explained earlier actually broke, the stitching broke, so I had to go back in and get it repaired again.
Number 10, Avery Crum, a teen dream tested at Milano Cortina 2026. At just 17 years old, Avery Crum arrived at the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina, carrying something most athletes twice her age struggle with: expectation. Born in Canada and later switching allegiance to represent the United States, Crum was one of the youngest competitors in the women's slopestyle free-skiing event. Her presence alone symbolized the future of the sport, and at first, everything seemed on track. Crum navigated qualification with composure beyond her years. Her opening run showed confidence, creativity, and control. Even after a slight drop in execution during her second attempt, she remained within striking distance. The podium wasn't guaranteed, but it was still possible. Then came the third run. Within seconds of pushing off, disaster struck. Approaching the very first rail feature, Crum lost her balance. Her ski clipped awkwardly, sending her body into the rail as one ski detached completely. The crash was abrupt, violent, and unforgiving, the kind that offers no chance to recover mid-run. In a sport where flow is everything, momentum was gone instantly. Despite the fall, Crum still posted a score, an 86, but it placed her last in the final standings. A teenager processing heartbreak on the world's biggest stage, surrounded by flashing lights and silent expectations. What made the moment devastating wasn't just the result. At 17, she had time. Veteran analysts were quick to point out what this moment represented. Not failure, but exposure. Exposure to Olympic pressure. Exposure to error under the brightest spotlight. Exposure to the brutal reality that even prodigies fall. Crum's story at Milano Cortina wasn't about medals. It was about resilience being tested early. Many Olympic champions have similar chapters buried in their past. Falls that didn't end careers, but shaped them. For Avery Crum, the crash marked a beginning rather than an ending. With age, experience, and talent firmly on her side, the real question isn't what went wrong in 2026, but how much stronger she'll be when the next Olympic gate opens in 2030. Number 9. Tyler Walker, a brutal impact and an even stronger return. The 2014 Winter Paralympics in Sochi were meant to be a debut, a defining moment for Tyler Walker in the men's sitting alpine skiing downhill. Instead, they delivered one of the most uncomfortable crashes in Paralympic history. From the start, the course raised concerns. Multiple athletes struggled with its design. Conditions were unpredictable. Bumps formed where speed met instability, and crashes mounted as the event unfolded. Out of 22 competitors, only 12 would eventually finish the race. Walker started strong. His early section showed control and aggression, exactly what downhill skiing demands. Then, in an instant, everything unraveled. Hitting a bump at speed, Walker was launched violently into the air. His sled twisted. His body slammed into the ground. For several seconds, he didn't move. The silence was unsettling. Medical teams rushed in. A helicopter was called. Viewers watched as Walker was airlifted off the mountain, unsure whether they had just witnessed a life-altering injury. Remarkably, he suffered no fractures. But the damage was still profound. Walker later revealed that he had no memory of the crash. The impact was severe enough to cause a significant concussion, wiping the moment from his mind entirely. The psychological toll lingered longer than the physical one. For many athletes, that kind of crash ends careers. For Walker, it became a turning point. Instead of retreating, he rebuilt. 4 years later, at the 2018 Winter Paralympics, he returned. Not cautiously, but competitively. This time, he finished. More than that, he excelled, earning 2 silver medals and proving that resilience isn't measured by avoiding crashes. Number 8. Christopher Del Bosco. A championship career stopped midair. Christopher Del Bosco's path to the Olympics was already a story of survival before he ever reached the start gate in Pyeongchang. Once a dominant force in ski cross, Del Bosco had clawed his way back from substance abuse issues and a fractured neck suffered during a violent assault. By the time he arrived at the 2018 Winter Olympics representing Canada, he wasn't just competing, he was redeeming himself. And for most of the race, it looked like redemption was within reach. 4 racers, full speed, jumps, contact, and split-second decisions. Del Bosco thrived in that environment. He powered through the early stages of the men's ski cross event with aggression and control, positioning himself for a strong finish. Then came the final jump. As Del Bosco launched into the air, his balance faltered. His skis drifted unevenly, his body twisting just enough to make a clean landing impossible. He slammed into the icy surface at speed. The impact was brutal. Medical teams rushed in as Del Bosco lay motionless. He was stretchered off the course, his Olympic dream ending not at the finish line, but in the snow beneath it. The diagnosis later confirmed the severity of the crash: 4 broken ribs, a bruised lung, and a fractured pelvis. For most athletes, injuries like that signal the end. But Del Bosco refused to let the crash define him. After months of rehabilitation, he returned to competition, even making the controversial decision to later switch national allegiance. Nickel caught an edge at speed. Mikaela Shiffrin. When expectations collapse in Beijing 2022, few athletes have ever arrived at the Winter Olympics carrying expectations as heavy as Mikaela Shiffrin did in Beijing. By 2022, Shiffrin wasn't just a champion, she was a phenomenon. Multiple World Cup titles, 6 World Championships, 2 Olympic gold medals already in hand. Many believed Beijing would cement her status as the greatest alpine skier of all time. Statistically, it made sense. Shiffrin entered the Games competing in 6 events, with experts openly predicting multiple gold medals. She was the favorite in several disciplines. The pressure wasn't whispered, it was broadcast. Then came the giant slalom. Just seconds into her first run, Shiffrin slipped at the 5th gate. No dramatic collision, no spectacular crash. Just a minor technical error, the kind she almost never made. She skidded out, disqualified instantly. Days later, she returned for the slalom, another gold medal favorite. Again, early in the first run, she lost control and skied out. At this point, the story shifted from sport to psychology. Shiffrin spoke openly about the emotional toll. Confidence wavered. Familiar rhythms felt foreign. Even during the alpine combined event, where she started strong, another slip ended her medal hopes yet again. For the first time in her Olympic career, Shiffrin left the Games without a single medal. What made this moment devastating wasn't injury, it was identity. Shiffrin wasn't battling broken bones or torn ligaments. She was battling the mental weight of expectation, scrutiny, and self-doubt under the harshest spotlight imaginable. The public reaction was divided. Some critics questioned her preparation. Others questioned her mental toughness. But many athletes recognized something deeper. This was what happens when perfection is demanded, not hoped for. In the years since Beijing, Shiffrin has spoken candidly about redefining success, about separating self-worth from results, about learning who she was outside the podium. Her Beijing crashes didn't end her career, far from it, but they shattered the illusion that dominance guarantees control. Even the most precise skier in history can lose everything in a single gate. Sometimes, the most catastrophic Olympic moments don't look violent. They look quiet. And they linger far longer than bruises. Shaun White. By the time Shaun White arrived at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, he wasn't chasing validation, he was chasing history. Already a 2-time Olympic gold medalist in the men's halfpipe, White was aiming for an unprecedented 3rd consecutive gold. But the Games unraveled before they even began. During practice for the debut Olympic slopestyle event, White suffered a wrist injury severe enough to force him to withdraw entirely. The decision sparked controversy, criticism, and intense media scrutiny. The pressure followed him straight into the halfpipe, and it showed. In the halfpipe final, White struggled to find his rhythm. He clipped the edge of the pipe, disrupting his run. His score dropped. He finished 4th, just off the podium. A shocking result for an athlete expected to dominate. 4 years later, White rewrote the story. At the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, he delivered one of the greatest comebacks in Olympic history, landing a near-perfect final run to win gold and become the oldest halfpipe Olympic champion ever. It was cinematic, emotional, definitive, which is why his final Olympic appearance in Beijing 2022 carried such gravity. White announced that these would be his last games. Retirement loomed. Legacy was already secure. But competitors like White don't compete for closure. They compete for perfection. His first 2 halfpipe runs were strong, controlled, promising. A medal was within reach. White slipped on the landing. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't violent, but it was final. His score dropped, and once again he finished 4th, the same placement that haunted him 8 years earlier. As he exited the pipe, the moment felt heavier than a loss. Cameras followed him through tears, embraces, and a long walk that felt like a goodbye, not just to competition, but to an era of the sport itself. White later said he felt peace with the decision to retire, but the crash, minor as it looked, symbolized something profound. Even legends don't get to script their ending. Shaun White didn't leave the Olympics broken. Nina O'Brien. A finish line crash that changed everything. For Nina O'Brien, were supposed to be a breakthrough. A rising star in U.S. alpine skiing, O'Brien entered the games with momentum, consistency, and quiet confidence. She wasn't the headline favorite, but insiders believed she had the talent to surprise. Her first run in the women's giant slalom supported that belief. O'Brien skied cleanly, aggressively, and with control, placing 6th overall after the opening run. A medal wasn't guaranteed, but it was suddenly within reach. All she needed was another solid descent. Then, just meters from the finish line, everything unraveled. Clipping a gate at high speed, O'Brien lost balance. Her leg twisted awkwardly beneath her as she crashed violently into the snow. The impact was immediate and disturbing, not because of distance or airtime, but because of how her body absorbed the force. She had suffered a compound fracture of both the tibia and fibula, along with a partially torn MCL. Surgery was unavoidable, not just physically but psychologically. The dream doesn't just end, it fractures. O'Brien later spoke candidly about the emotional weight of the crash. For years, she had imagined what her Olympic moment would feel like. This wasn't it. There was no celebration, no closure, just pain, uncertainty, and months of rehabilitation ahead. Recovery was long and grueling. Learning to trust her body again was harder than healing the bone. Alpine skiing demands confidence at speed, and after a crash like that, Hermann Maier. If there's a single crash that defines both catastrophe and resilience at the Winter Olympics, until Nagano. Early in the downhill race, Maier lost balance during a turn. What should have been a manageable error instantly escalated into disaster when he hit a jump at full speed. Launched into the air, Maier twisted violently before slamming into the icy slope. The impact was horrifying. Momentum carried him directly into multiple safety barriers. His body tumbled uncontrollably as the crowd gasped. It was the kind of crash viewers brace themselves to see once and never want to see again. Miraculously, Maier survived. Even more astonishing, he suffered no serious injuries, no broken bones, no life-threatening trauma. Against all logic, he stood up and walked away. Maier didn't. Days later, he returned to competition and delivered one of the greatest comebacks in Olympic history. In doing so, Maier transformed what should have been a career-ending crash into a defining moment of legend. Had he not crashed in the downhill, he might have joined the rare group of athletes to win 3 gold medals at a single Winter Olympic. Proved that catastrophe doesn't always end stories. Sometimes it forges them. In Olympic history, few moments capture the razor-thin line between disaster and greatness like Hermann Maier's fall. Lindsey Vonn, racing through pain at Milano Cortina, 2026. By the time Lindsey Vonn returned to Olympic competition at the 2026 Winter Games in Milano Cortina, she had already cemented her legacy as one of the greatest alpine skiers of all time. Multiple Olympic medals, dozens of World Cup victories, records that may never be broken. She had retired once already, believing her body could no longer endure the punishment elite skiing demanded. But champions rarely walk away cleanly. After undergoing a knee replacement and years of rehabilitation, Vonn made the astonishing decision to return to competitive skiing in 2024, with one final goal in mind. But champions rarely walk away cleanly. After undergoing a knee replacement and years of rehabilitation, Vonn made the astonishing decision to return to competitive skiing in 2024, with one final goal in mind. One last Olympic downhill. It wasn't about medals anymore. It was about closure, proving to herself that she could still stand in the start gate. The road to Milano Cortina was brutal. At a World Cup event leading into the Games, Vonn crashed and ruptured her ACL, an injury that would end most careers instantly. For Vonn, it became another obstacle to push through. Against medical caution and public doubt, she committed to racing anyway, knowing full well the risks. Then came the Olympic downhill. Just 13 seconds into her run, Vonn's arm clipped a gate while she was airborne. The contact knocked her off balance mid-flight. She landed awkwardly and crashed hard into the snow, sliding violently before coming to a stop. The course fell silent. Medical teams rushed in as Vonn was airlifted to the hospital. The diagnosis confirmed the severity: a broken leg, requiring multiple surgeries. Her final Olympic run, the one she fought years to reach, ended almost as soon as it began. What made the moment devastating wasn't just the injury. It was finality. There would be no comeback this time, and the mountain had taken the last word. And yet, there was something profoundly human in the way she handled it. No anger, no regret, just resolve. Vonn later spoke about staying committed to her plan, accepting the outcome, and finding peace in knowing she tried. Her Milano Cortina crash wasn't a failure. It was the cost of refusing to quit quietly. Lindsey Vonn didn't leave the Olympics standing on a podium. She left having proven something harder. That courage doesn't disappear when the body breaks. Lindsey Jacobellis, the celebration that became an Olympic nightmare. No crash in Winter Olympic history is remembered quite like Lindsey Jacobellis' fall at the 2006 Turin Games. Not because of violence, but because of timing. Jacobellis arrived in Turin as the undisputed favorite in the women's snowboard cross. Fresh off a gold medal at the 2005 World Championships, she was marketed as the face of the sport. Confident, dominant, and seemingly unbeatable. And during the Olympic final, she proved it. As she approached the final jump, victory was virtually guaranteed. Gold was seconds away. Then she celebrated. Mid-air, Jacobellis performed a method grab, a stylish trick meant to show confidence, even dominance. But instead of landing cleanly, her board clipped the snow. She lost balance. She fell. In a single moment, everything changed. As Jacobellis slid out, Switzerland's Tanja Frieden passed her, taking gold. Jacobellis crossed the line in silver, stunned, heartbroken, and instantly immortalized for the wrong reason. The fallout was brutal. Media scrutiny was relentless. She was criticized as arrogant, careless, immature. The phrase, "showboating cost her gold," followed her everywhere. For years, that single moment overshadowed every other achievement in her career. But Jacobellis refused to let it define her. She returned stronger, winning multiple world championships and dominating snowboard cross on the world stage. And in 2022, 16 years after Turin, she finally completed the arc, winning 2 Olympic gold medals, one in women's snowboard cross and another in the mixed team event. Her crash in 2006 remains iconic not because of failure, but because of resilience. Jacobellis didn't lose because she wasn't good enough. She lost because she believed she already was. And in the end, she proved it anyway. These crashes remind us that at the Winter Olympics, greatness and disaster often share the same edge. Sometimes the mountain wins. Sometimes the moment breaks the dream. Which Olympic crash do you think was the most devastating, physically or emotionally? And do you believe risk is what makes these sports great? Or too dangerous? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy deep, story-driven breakdowns of iconic Olympic moments, hit like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories from the world's biggest stage.